Live from Pepsi Studios in New York City, it's the Hospitality Hangout podcast with the restaurant guy and the finance guy. Everything's better with Pepsi.
And Starry. Don't forget the Frischling family favorite beverage now. Starry.
I know you love Starry, Jim, but
do.
by the way, you know my favorite is nobody drinks more of this Pure Leaf unsweetened.
That's true.
And now they've got green unsweetened.
Unsweetened?
I'm digging the green unsweetened. I drink 2 or 3 of these a day.
Yes,
now I'm buying the big ones.
Buy the big ones. Everything's better than Pepsi. You know what's even better than just having Pepsi?
What's that?
You have a little Don Julio and Starry. Tequila and Starry.
Listen, I'm going to give you my thing, okay?
Yeah.
And this is the free for Pepsi moment here.
Yeah.
It's Tito's and Starry.
Tito's
you get gluten-free.
Yes.
You get 0 calories.
0 calorie.
So you're having fun.
Zero sugar.
Catching zero sugar, no gluten, getting a little buzz on. It's Starry and Tito's in a can.
In a can. Do you think Pepsi might prefer if we talked about their non-alc beverages without including the alc? I think they like the fact that we're...
I don't know. I mean,
Should
they're such a big company. They should definitely. Who wouldn't? I mean, it's just another way of buying Starry.
I agree.
It's absolutely done. Listen, just before we jump into it, we've got a great guest. We got a great show. And again, Jimmy, I always say, how do we get the guests? Like, I don't know what we're paying. I haven't looked. I got to speak to Matt Lerner and see what we're paying these folks.
Yeah.
But clearly, it's a lot of money because the only way you get these kind of people is to pay. Am I right?
Actually, we don't pay.
We don't pay?
We've gone another route, which is blackmail.
Is that okay?
All right, well, we've gone with you can join us in the show, we can have a good time, or we can talk about you on the show without you being there.
Whatever it is, I love it because I got to tell you, we're getting great guests. But before we kick it off, I just want to talk about something that's been on my mind a little bit.
I can't imagine.
It's the heart of the restaurant. It's the brain of the restaurant.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, you're talking about the point of sale.
The point of sale. And I got to tell you, we switched all our restaurants to a new point of sale. I know, Jimmy, you make fun of me. You're like, Schatzy said he would never switch point of sale. And what I do?
You switch your point of sale.
That's why you never say never.
Never say never.
You never say never. And I got to tell you, we went with toast with all of our restaurants. And I got to tell you, we are loving toast. The servers like toast.
Yes, they do.
The managers like toast because it's easy to use.
Yes, they do.
And the customers are enjoying it because you got handhelds, you got QR to pay, and
optionality.
Optionality, flexibility.
Meet the guests where they're at.
And you know what I say? And this is my line for toast. And they could use it if they want with no attribution to me.
Yeah.
Toast. You ready, Jimbo?
I'm ready.
It's the Apple of point of sale.
There you go. By the way, you got to do a mic drop.
I mean, everyone, the whole crowd, they're on their feet. I love it. Yeah, thank you.
Apple.
Thank you. What's it mean? It's toast and apple, by the way. Thank you. They love it. Jimbo, listen. All kidding aside, I'm loving what they're doing. We got a great show. Let's kick it off, Jimbo.
Let's kick it off. I want to more formally welcome everybody to the Hospitality Hangout, a hospitality-focused podcast where the founders, that's Schatz and me, bring technology and innovation and emerging brands and bring these leaders to you. We bring their insights and hopefully we'll have some fun and also drop some knowledge. My name is Jimmy Frischling, otherwise known as the finance guy, and I'll reintroduce my brother from another mother, Mr. Michael Schatzberg, also known as the restaurant guy.
And thank you for that kind introduction, Jimmy. And for all those listening, feel free to call me Schatzy.
Yes.
We're at the intersection of hospitality, restaurants, technology, innovation, automation, investment, cookies.
Here it comes. I do cookies.
Because I got to tell you, Jimbo, nobody does cookies like we do cookies.
No one does cookies like
Not
that.
on a podcast.
Actually, I'll tell you who does cookies better than we do. Our guests. Okay, because I'm very excited to introduce our guest today. Joining us is our friend, our business partner, Zachary, aka Schmackary Schmahl, the creator of Schmackary's Cookies. He's the founder, he's the CEO, and he's the guy we are thrilled not just to be having on the podcast, but we're thrilled to be working with him and the growth and expansion of Schmackary's. We're going to have a good time today.
I got to tell you, we're going to have a really good time.
Oh, by the way, you know what good time we're having? We're going to have a really good time. Judge, are you going to speak for a minute?
No, I was going to play a little Trivia Tuesday for you.
Okay, well, I took my bite. Now
take a bite, and let's kick off.
All right, listen, before we bring...
That's your match game music.
Before we bring Zachary in, everyone knows we release our episodes on Tuesday. Therefore, we call it Trivia Tuesday. Here's how we play the game. I'm going to give you 3 factoids about our friend Zachary. Okay, 2 are true. One I like to say is less than true, also known as a lie. I don't like saying the word lie. But 2 truths and a lie. Okay, here are the 3 factoids. Fact 1, Zachary walked on a broken ankle for 8 years before he knew it was broken. It's a good one. Fact 2, Zack got married in the Motley Crue party house. By the way, I like that one too. And fact 3.
No, but I got to tell you, I'm just looking at him right now. And I got to tell you, I could see that. He seems like he's definitely heavy metal. I could see that.
And in fact 3, Zack made it to Oprah's favorite things 3 years in a row. By the way, these are 3 great factoids. Fact 1, walked on a broken ankle for 8 years before he knew it was broken. Fact 2.
When I look at this thing over here,
yes?
I'm thinking Oprah.
Got married in the Motley Crue party house, and Zachary made it to Oprah's favorite things 3 years in a row. You got to stick around to the end of the episode. We'll have Schatzy play the game. He's very good at the game, although he's been a little off his game, but he crushed it last week. And you'll get the real story from Zachary. Okay.
All right, let's get into it. Okay, I know everyone's saying, is Zachary actually with you guys?
They don't even believe he's here.
Yeah, because we just talked. We've been talking for 15 minutes. All right, before we get into it, we like to know how does a guest become the CEO, the COO? How do they become the president, the founder? How do they get there? How do they start? How does one start one of the greatest cookie companies ever? Like, how does that even happen?
How does it happen?
So let's just go back. Let's go back in time a little bit, okay? And we're going to go back to the 1990s. Back to the 1990s, okay, where first jobs, one of his first jobs was at Panera, another small mom and pop bakery. Panera Bread.
I think they might make it.
They know a little something about bakery, right? So Zach's working at Panera Bread, okay? But he's at the University of Nebraska, and he's in theater, loves theater. And he says, Mom, Dad, you know what I want to do? I want to be in theater. All I want to do is theater. But he loved the baking at Panera. He still had that bug, right? And he moved out to L.A. where he was going to continue acting. Now, his parents weren't thrilled about this because acting is a tough gig. And they're saying baking, that's a better future. I mean, baking? I mean, come on, Chef Boyardee. I mean, he's a chef for crying out loud. He's crushed it, right? I mean, so he knows. But when he's acting and he's baking and he's marketing and he's doing PR and he's learning and he's baking, and then he says,
Bring him to New York.
And he says, what if I create, everyone says Zachary. And you know what rhymes with Zachary? Schmackary. And he's like, Zachary Schmackary. And he comes up with the greatest cookie concept ever in the history of time, okay? And right now he's here and he's getting anxious. So let's bring him in. I gotta get the right music. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, founder, creator, CEO, and chairman of the board, Zachary Schmahl. Founder of Schmackary's Cookies. It was 20 minutes to get you here, but let's talk about it, man. Zachary, how much did I get right? How much did I get wrong? Tell us, how do you create one of the greatest cookie companies ever?
I mean, I'll tell you, when it comes time for me to write my biography, I'm going to have you come and be my ghostwriter because you basically just lived my entire life in 30 seconds.
Right? I mean, this is what I do. So tell us a little bit. What I get right, what I get wrong. Where are we today?
I mean, there was some things along the way. I think the parents' support of the baking profession definitely was a little bit waning in the beginning. But, I started my career as an actor. I did work at a bakery in high school, but, it was neither here nor there. I think it was more...
Were you just the counter or were you actually baking?
No, definitely the counter. Maybe eating more pastries than I was selling. But,
yep, that sounds good.
And, when I moved out to LA and then moved to New York, I was always baking as a hobby, but it never really was something that I was like, oh, yeah, this will be a great business idea. I never even thought of it as a way to make money. And when I decided to leave the business because I was like, hey, I don't want to, spend my entire life scraping by and going on auditions, I was like, let me try to find something creative that'll fuel me. And I worked in a marketing firm, I worked at a PR firm, and I was, just not really getting that fuel, but I was learning some really good traits along the way, like how to market products. And then, lo and behold, this hobby that I had had for years, and all my friends just started saying, you have to start selling these cookies. I was doing cookie experimentation.
Just making them in the kitchen and giving them to people?
I mean, I was having people over at my house and giving them away so that I wouldn't eat them all.
Right.
But I'd bring them to my work and bring them to everything. And it was literally one by one. Everybody was like, you've got to start selling these things. And then as I'm working for a marketing firm, I was like, ding, one of those Oprah aha moments.
Yes,
And
the
I said,
aha
like-
moment.
The Oprah
I
aha
said
moment.
if I could like market and brand other people's products, maybe I could do it for myself. And then I kind of treated it as a marketing project where I was like, okay, how would I market myself? Like, what would it be? And I was like, oh, this feeling of cookies, it like makes me feel like I'm like back in my grandparents' childhood and this like,
Cookies make you happy.
Exactly. And I was like, it just like really sank like home for me. That's like home. And I'm from Nebraska originally. So I was like, cookies feel like home. And then, like you said, my name is Zachary Schmahl. Since high school, everybody always called me Zachary Schmackary. And then one day I just thought, Schmackaries. Lip schmacking good cookies.
This is the marketing in you, man. This is the PR marketing in you, man.
What he did with it, boom.
He's a branding guy.
He's a branding guy. Listen, I love a true entrepreneurship story. And again, I got nothing but big love and respect for entrepreneurs. There's no off switch. You never get to disconnect. And I'm loving your story. We've been fortunate to have some great guests on the podcast who literally started their companies in their kitchen. Recently, we had Scott Redler from Freddy's. That was a great one. Literally felt that he wanted that steak burger. He wanted the custard. We've had other great guests, but going from your home kitchen to being a first-time restaurant owner operator, that is like a master's class. That is no small task to take your self-taught and then bring it to a commercial level. So can you share a little more about how you went from, we'll call it kitchen chef, to storefront? Some of the lessons you learned along the way.
Totally. Well, I kind of feel like I was definitely thrown into this career as soon as it was like an idea in my head. It was like the universe said, yep, that's what you're going to do. And within a couple of weeks, I got fired from my marketing job.
Which was perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
And I was like, okay, well, I guess I could just bake cookies and live off ramen noodles for a while. And it was literally just the door started opening. And it was a lot of hard work. But, those little sparks just started flying. And I was like, having been an actor, I knew all these friends who were on Broadway. And I was like, hey, can you just like take these cookies to the theater and see what happens? And then the orders just started flying in out of my apartment. And I'm baking cookies very illegally out of my apartment.
Statute of limitations, you're fine.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
You're good.
It's gone. So, it just, the orders started flying in. And then one day, somehow my cookies got in front of the president of Viacom, and they ordered cookies for every single business in the entire building. And
that's a lot of cookies.
All out of my apartment. And literally, it was like that was the day that the business just exploded. And it was like I could not keep up with the orders. They were going out of style. And then I'm walking around my neighborhood, and I was like, I lived on 49th and 9th at the time. And I was walking around my neighborhood thinking like, I can't do this for very much longer out of my apartment. I'm going to have to get a storefront. And it was like the universe said, oh. And I was walking down the street with my dog. I saw this fried chicken joint that was on 45th and 9th. It had just closed. And I was like, that'd be a great spot for my store.
45th and 9th, the headquarters of Schmackary's.
The original, the OG.
The OG, baby.
So, I reached out to the landlord and I was like, how do I get into this spot? Granted, I had no money to my name at the time. Like,
you had cookies. You had cookies
Exactly.
and passion.
Ideas and a dream.
Yeah.
And so they said the lease had already gone out. And then a few days later, some guy called me that I had never heard of, named Simon Oren. And he was like, hey, I'd like to take a meeting, and hear what your concept is about. And I was like, okay. So I met him at 5 Napkin Burger. Turns out he owned 5 Napkin Burger. And I was like, oh, okay. And he said, so what's your story? And, me, my little marketing background, I was like, well, here's the story. Think back to your grandparents' childhood. And I was pitching this tale of a bakery that
with jazzy hands.
Yeah.
Exactly. The acting paid off.
Yeah, 100%.
So I, told them about this bakery that existed in our grandparents' childhood and how we needed to revive it for the 21st century. And they liked the idea, but they loved the cookies and they loved my tenacity or whatnot. And I saw this space and it was just disgusting. It had grease stalactites hanging from the ceiling, but me, I just like shut my eyes and I imagined what it would look like with my own branding and everything. And I went home and I drew out a floor plan about like how this would, all look. And a few days later, they called me and they were like, hey, we love your cookies. We love the concept. We'd love to bring you in for a second meeting, and I'm still like, yeah, if I get the lease on this thing, how the hell am I going to pay for it? Because I don't, And then I took the second meeting, brought them more cookies, different flavors, and I drew out the whole floor plan. And honestly, it looks almost exactly to the way that our store looks today, which is crazy. 13.
I mean, that
years
store
ago.
is what, 750 square feet?
725 square feet.
I mean, I've been to the store a few times. I mean, you guys crank out a lot of freaking business out of that little store.
We really
So
do.
Oren, who's our friend, our partner for a long time.
For a long time.
He doesn't suffer fools lightly. So
No.
The fact
if
is,
Oren took a liking,
Oren took a liking to the cookies and that's a big statement. And Robert Carino, he's our partner.
Yep.
These are good people. These are great.
They know what to think about restaurants.
They know what to do about restaurants.
They do. They have a huge group, the chef-driven group.
Right.
They own now 17 restaurants.
17 restaurants. Yeah.
But to me, I didn't know anything about the industry. I'm like, these people, I don't know who they are. And before I knew it, they sent me away, and I'm still like, how am I going to make this happen? Universe, conspire in my favor. And they called me back and said, you know what? We love your concept. We love you. And we don't just want you to be a tenant in our space. We want you to be our business partner, and we're going to pay for this entire thing to be done. And I was like,
whoa, did you call your boss and say, thank you for firing me?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, because if you didn't fire me, talk about unbelievable. Let's talk a little about 45th and 9th Avenue. And let's talk about, a little show that I happen to love. Jimmy, you haven't seen it because you're so back. Jimmy's still watching Rocky in the theater. He's trying to wait for it to come back to the theaters. There's a great show, Murders in the Building.
Only Murders
in the Building with Steve Martin and Martin Short. Selena Gomez. I mean, it's an awesome show. I love it. And I'm watching this show, and they're just talking schmackaries, bringing schmackaries all the time. So tell us how you're an actor. You had some friends on Broadway, but how did this everyone on Broadway loves schmackaries. It's like they all use it for their cast parties, for when they're auditioning. I mean, they're always bringing schmack. Tell us how that all happened and that community and what it means to you and your business right now.
Listen, the word that you brought up is community. And for me, I've always thought that a business like mine that exists, in this time forgotten in our grandparents' childhood, like how did businesses survive back then? It was about building community and about being like a stand-up citizen in the community. Mm-hmm. And so when I opened up my store, I was like, what is our community around here and how do we get involved with the community? And we're in the theater district.
Right.
I'm a former actor. And it started with, I was like, you know what? Let's start sending cookies to the theaters as like gifts in kind and just, get the name out.
Yep.
And it was in the day and age where Twitter had just begun and people were all on Twitter. And I would send cookies to the theaters and these stars would be tweeting about schmackaries and, oh, schmackaries is amazing, and sending all these pictures. And then all of a sudden the fans just followed and our store became this place where between two show days on Broadway, all the stars would be coming in. So people would be
taking pictures and right.
Stars, and it was like
Demois going there now,
And so it's just like the nickname, the official Cookie of Broadway started coming out, and I was like, we gotta lean.
That's
into
a
this.
big deal. The official Cookie of Broadway.
Let me tell you, as a kid who always dreamed of making it on Broadway, that was like
you're making it on Broadway
for me. And so I decided to start this charity called Broadway Bakes, where we raise money for Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS.
Yep.
And I was like, let's invite stars to work behind the counter and raise money for this charity and see like what happens. And in the first year we raised like $15,000. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And then it became a yearly tradition. And then it was like stuck. It was like, you're the official Cookie of Broadway. So then when this last year of Only Murders in the Building was going to film this whole show where they were putting a Broadway show together, in the writer's room, they said, hey, like we should start to put some Easter eggs for Broadway fans, like what's synonymous with Broadway? And some girl who was in the writer's room who happened to be a former Broadway actress, she just goes, well, schmackaries, of course. And everybody in the room was like, what's schmackaries? And they started throwing around this joke about like, oh, that's a damn, I don't even know what the
Cookie of Broadway.
Yeah, it's a nice little Easter egg. And all of a sudden it
became like a bit. And then the bit turned into like a moment, and then the moment became part of the storyline of the season. And I mean, they told me about it, pitched the idea, and then when I actually saw the show, I was like, oh my God, I did not know we were going to be that involved in it. I just knew that they just kept asking for cookies, but I thought it was for the cast and crew. I didn't know.
I love it. I got to tell you, listen, you're a trendsetter. That's clear. You're a trendsetter. You're an actor. You're a marketing guru. You're a baker. I mean, you're like a Renaissance man. You're really a Renaissance man. You do it all. I mean, and menu innovation's a big part of schmackaries. You're not just making a cookie. you're making lots of really innovative things. And New York is home to a lot of innovation when it comes to pastries and such. The cronut, the crow cookie, the brookie, cookie shots, you name it. I mean, there are stuff that comes out of here. What are you thinking about LTOs, and what are your thoughts? And can you give us a little bit of insight into how you come up with your innovative ideas, and what are the new things in the pipeline? What can we expect from Schmackary's?
So I love an LTO. I feel like our business kind of started as like we had 12 flavors on our menu, and then I just started adding more and adding more and adding more. And now 12 years later, I have over 100 flavors on our menu. So I love a good LTO.
Yeah.
I feel like for us as a company that's known for coming out with new and innovative and fun flavors, people are always looking out for what's next. And I always think, obviously 45th Street is this test kitchen that we can try fun things like a schmackaroni and cheese cookie, or
I love it. Yeah,
weird ingredients in cookies, and they aren't always the best sellers, but they get people talking and
social media get buzz. Yeah, no, 100%. I love it.
But cookies and things in the pipeline. We just came out with a peanut butter and jelly cookie, which sounds kind of basic, but I was waiting to do it right, and really I wanted that Wonder Bread feeling of the creamy peanut butter, and even just I have some candied crumbled peanuts on top, and I wanted to get the jelly inside the cookie perfect, and it was I love it, and it's gluten-free, which it's something for everybody.
I'm giving you one. Here's mine. Okay, Sticko butter, just Sticko butter.
It's a pumpkin cookie.
Just a Sticko butter cookie. I always wanted Haagen-Dazs to make a Sticko butter.
Sticko butter.
It's low carb.
I'm showing off the my cookie today. What I It's the one with the cinnamon.
The cinnamon toast crunch,
which is my daughter's. I love they get to bring Sylvia into the episode because that's her favorite cereal, and I'm bringing that cookie home for her.
Who doesn't love that?
Less one bite that I've enjoyed.
I do have an LTO breakfast item that lately. I've been hearing. My staff always tells me about the new TikTok trends, because that's I'm a little too old for that.
No, but you got to know what's going on. You got to know what's going on.
Everybody was telling me, "Oh, have you heard about the cookie croissant?" And I was like, "That sounds disgusting." And
isn't that at Lafayette?
Something like that. I tried it, and then I was literally like, I can do one better. Why don't we do a cookie dough cinnamon roll? So I have here.
Oh, that was the one. That's Oprah's favorite.
So I have a cinnamon roll here that has a cookie stuffed inside of it and baked inside of it. This thing is bomb.
Let me see that.
It blows the croissant cookie out of the water.
There you go. I like it.
Digging in.
By the way, for our listeners, and by that I mean for our listeners, and by that I mean for me, LTO stands for
limited time only.
Limited time only. Limited time only, limited time offer, limited time. Okay. By the way, just for our listeners, acronyms, LTO, limited time.
They matter,
offer.
Jimmy. They matter.
Listen, I want to shift gears, and I want to talk about the expansions, the Schmackary's expansion. And we kind of made mention earlier, but you're working in partnership with a good friend of Brandon, Mr. Dan Rowe from FranSmart, one of the leaders in franchising.
It's also not just a leader in franchising, Jimmy. I'd say he's probably one of the most handsome franchising people in the industry.
Why don't you talk about his great golf game, too? If you're really going to kiss his ass.
But he happens to be. He's not just a great franchise. Look, everyone knows he's a great golfer and one of the best-looking franchise guys.
Fantastic dressing.
Yeah, everyone knows that. Dresses beautifully.
Dan, that was you. This segment sponsored by FranSmart.com. Okay, listen. Can you share a little more about what you have going on with Dan? What are your plans for growth? I think you're now up to 13 stores in the works. And you've even got a West Coast production facility. What's going on in the expansion? Because, by the way, for New Yorkers, we love Schmackary's. You're the Cookie of Broadway. But coming to a city near you, what's going on with the expansion of Schmackary's?
Absolutely. So, for me, I never really thought of franchising as something that I wanted to do with my company, because, for me, our company has so much heart and soul that I always kind of thought, if I start franchising, I'm just going to sell out. That's just selling out. And then Dan kind of stalked me lately for years. And finally, I got a meeting with him, and he was like, yo, you're going to be the next great dessert franchise. Why aren't you franchising yet? And I was like, well, I don't want to lose what makes us special, because that's kind of our thing. It's not just having amazing cookies. It's creating
Zach,
an experience.
You could never not be special. You're special. You're always going to be special.
You're the most special kid in the world.
Yeah, you're special. Come on.
To your mom and dad.
Yeah, you're special.
So he said, no, you can be in charge of that. You have hands-on, you're the hands-on guy to make sure that you can like keep what's.
You're Zachary Schmackary. You're the face.
So he talked me into it, and what started as a let's sell 100 units in 10 years turned into let's get you to 500 units in 10 years, and I'm just falling over limp in my chair, and then our first year of saying like, okay, we're open for franchising, we sold 13 units in 6 months, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess this could happen. And so we have 4 stores slated to open this year, 1 in New Jersey, 1 in New York City, 1 in Long Island, and 1 in San Diego. So we are crossing coasts and going west.
By the way, so the cookies are fantastic. You are the Cookie of Broadway, Zachary Schmackary, Cookie of Broadway. You've got an incredible franchising partner in Mr. Rowe and the Francois team. But let's break some things down to numbers. You also are generating over $2 million of sales out of a store, which we talked about earlier, is 725 feet.
That's what people care about,
right,
man.
So you're also putting up the numbers. I mean, those are. We look at businesses, we look at concepts. Your $2 million out of that store is a very impressive number. And so as you're expanding, and your strategy, as you said, to keep the integrity of the brand. Talk about how are you going to manufacture that? You have to grow, you got to scale. That's part of the vision. You also want to keep the integrity of the brand. I sign off on more emails than anyone wants to receive from me with the expression of the tagline.
At least your emails are short, Jimmy. That's the key thing. They're very short. They're very short.
But I sign off with it takes a village. Okay. So I know as you're strategically building your franchise and your franchisee partners, how are you looking at this expansion?
Yeah. I mean, for us in terms of like replicating what we have going on, it's a lot of training. And like right now, I'm taking that hands-on as we start small. I want to like really build that foundation and make sure that our operators are going to operate stores that we would be proud of.
They have to have your vision.
Exactly. And in fact, when we're wielding through people who are in it, they're like, oh, I hear you make great cookies. There's not a crumble around. So at Schmackary's, I'm like, you're not the partner for us.
Not
right,
you.
Right.
Definitely not. We're looking for people who see that we're doing something special on 45th Street, and they're like, I want a piece of that. What we're doing is just serving cookies with a side of Midwestern hospitality. And coming from Nebraska, that's big, a big thing. Serving people with empathy, with respect, with a smile.
Yes, that's going to crush this one, Schatz. What's the secret ingredient to Schmackary's?
Love.
Thank you.
It's love, heart and soul. Anything can make a cookie.
Yes.
Like the cookie can taste good, but then it's got to have passion in it. So when you take the Schmackary's, it's a whole experience.
Yes.
And you're getting a piece of Zachary.
It's true.
There you go.
And like you said, we have gotten, we've grown very quickly over the past 12 years and, grown to $2.3 million in sales in a year. And
big numbers.
Which, what's funny is that until the pandemic, we had never spent $1 of money on advertising. Not one. Everything was done by word of mouth and social media.
Isn't that great?
So that's a big piece of, as we grow now, we finally have a marketing budget. We're finally starting to put money towards advertising, putting more money towards marketing and things like that. So if we can do $2.3 million out of a 725 square foot store without ever spending $1.
Could you imagine if you had a 100,000 square foot store?
No.
Do the math. What are you talking about, Jimmy? If he's doing that out of 700, if you make the store even bigger.
Leave the math.
Are you
to
sure?
Zachary, myself, and Mr. Rowe.
We want 100.
You want 100 stores, 500 stores of 725, and keep pumping those out.
Oh, so it's a profit deal.
Small but
I
Small but
understand.
mighty.
Aha. All right, Jimbo, listen, let's go into a little word association. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, little word association. I'm going to throw out a word or a phrase, and you just tell me the first thing that comes into your mind.
Okay.
Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Sugar-free cookies.
Cardboard.
Airport dining options.
Overpriced.
Robot delivery.
The Jetsons.
All right, Jimbo, I got three words, 3 word associations. Jimby, you laughed a little bit, Jimbo.
I thought all 3 were awesome answers. I want to ask you to expand upon the sugar-free cookies and cardboard. I think I know where you're going to take this, but from a word association game, share a little bit about your thinking around that. You're very passionate about your cookies, and I happen to know that you're very sensitive to dietary issues, including allergies. So gluten-free is something that you lean into because you want those who are gluten-free to still enjoy and have the Schmackary's experience. So you're not against, being responsive, but sugar-free, you reacted.
That's my line.
That's your line. So please expand upon that.
Yeah, we are a super all-inclusive bakery in all senses of the word. We're just like super happy to please and invite anybody into our stores. I've had gluten-free cookies on our menu since we opened back in 2012. And we have a vegan cookie and a gluten-free cookie every single day on our menu. I've been asked over the years, like, come out with a sugar-free cookie, come out with a protein cookie. And for me,
you said go fuck yourself? Is that what you said to that?
I said it nicer than that. I said, there's other places that do that, and that's their specialty, and I support them.
Yes.
And I feel like go to those places.
Enjoy.
But for me,
yes.
Like even with our gluten-free and our vegan products, I wouldn't want a cookie taking up space on our counter that I, as a non-gluten-free and non-vegan person, wouldn't enjoy and think like, this is awesome. So when I put gluten-free and vegan cookies on the menu, I like put it in small print at the bottom, like vegan, gluten-free, because I would rather anybody be able to try any of the cookies.
It's flavorful, It's bursting. But
sugar-free, to me, to be able to do it justice, it'd take a lot of chemicals, and I'm very against that.
Right.
And the protein cookie thing, I'm like, listen, and sugar-free, for the most part, I'm like, listen,
it's not a protein bar, man.
Like, even when we have to release our calories, I'm like, come on, you're taking the fun out of it.
Yeah. No, I was thinking when you responded with the cardboard, I was thinking of the movie with Billy Crystal and De Niro, Analyze that.
Yeah.
Analyze that. Yep. And one of the characters says, I'm making a run. You want a sandwich? And then one of the guy goes, well, what's a low-fat sandwich? And the guy goes, a half a sandwich. You know what? If you're worried about the sugar intake of the calories, you know what? Eat half a cookie.
Share it with a friend.
But enjoy, indulge. It's an indulgence.
That's what a bakery is. Yes. A bakery, you're not looking to, if you're dieting, the bakery's probably not the right place to go.
You know what is the right place? Starry.
Sugar-free. There's your sugar-free.
There's your sugar-free.
And listen, I feel like in the world of baked goods, you could be eating a loaf of bread or a full cake, or you could get a cookie that's like a smaller portion.
Yes.
There's a balance.
Cookies, Schmackary's cookies are the healthy cookie because it's portion control.
I agree.
Everything in moderation. Have a cookie. All right, listen. I want to talk about. I want to do our talking back segment. Schatz and I clearly love to banter, love to chat. We learned along the way that sometimes our guest has a question or two for us. So I like to say nothing's off the table. Zachary, the microphone, my friend.
It's an Olympic moment.
Okay.
Because we're getting a question.
So
there we go.
So I have a divisive issue, and I want to hear your stance on it.
Nice.
What is your stance on tipping culture, especially in the United States?
I like it. It's a great question.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting question. I would say, in the United States, and if you travel around the world, you will find that tipping is not part of the culture. In this country, tipping has always been part of the culture. Always. It's been for quite some time. I know a bunch of really great operators. Mr. Danny Meyer tried. Tom Colicchio tried. They tried to eliminate tipping. And, outside of Europeans who were super happy about it because it was just what they're used to, the Americans went nuts. And they were just like, well, if I'm not tipping, then clearly my waiter and bartender, the team is not getting paid properly. They're not making the money. And it didn't do very well. So I can only say is that, if Danny Meyer and Tom Colicchio couldn't get traction to change the culture, I could tell you that certainly, Jimmy, you and I probably won't get traction.
Yeah, I think it's ingrained in our culture. First of all, TIP is an acronym, since we talked about acronym. And the acronym TIP is to ensure promptness. That's the acronym, okay? And I think it is ingrained in our culture. And as Schatz said, some amazing and leading restaurateurs tried to effectuate remove the tip. Also, there's an unfairness to the back of house. And I think restaurateurs really want to be respectful and mindful of their staff. And that includes how to compensate and reward the back of house, and the tipping by nature, front of house employees creates a sort of a kind of unfair playing field.
It's always a little weird.
But I think
in fact, the tip pooling is illegal.
In New York. So it is always a little weird to me, Jimmy, that the people making the food, they're just as essential. You can argue that they're more essential because if we can't make the food, then what's the point of having anybody to serve the food?
All I was going to add is I think after trying and some leaders trying to address the issue, not only were they rejected, but now it's getting, I think, a little out of control. And remove the word little, because now at quick serve and grab and goes and anywhere there's a cash register, the ease of the tablet
They're
being
turning it
turned
around
for the gratuity, I think, and at the end of the day,
they're looking at you weird, Jimmy,
Yes.
like you cheap bastard.
and you live and you